Hello there YouTube, and welcome to the inside of my head. Today's topic is again the Stone Age, and more precisely we are going into the depth of tools. Yeah, I've not prepared. Shit, you can hear that. I cannot even think good enough to know what. I did again. I cannot even think well enough to know what my next word should be. I should really think before I speak. Especially when this video is about my thinking and not about my speech anyway. But to come to the topic, well, we have the Stone Age. Again, if you watch my overview, you know the Stone Age lasted for more than 300, no, that's not true, more than 3 million years. So we of course had a lot of tool development in these years. Or did we? We kind of did not, because again it was the Stone Age. You can only do that much with stone, so but we did a lot with stone, I will say that, but it's not like a definitely amount of tools we managed to make in these 3 million years. Today we make more new tools in 1 year. I can almost say that than you do in the Stone Age. It depends on what you mean by tools. I think you can say we invent more new stuff in a year today than we did in the 3 million years of the Stone Age. So, this is the Stone Age again started by us humanists lifting up a stone and using it to do something to another thing. Hammer against the first tool ever, the hammer. Hammer it against a coconut to crack it open and be able to drink the inside and maybe eat the inside. It is actually kind of a belief that we managed to drink the inside of a coconut before we managed to eat it, which makes sense kind of, because to drink a coconut you just need to make a crack in it and then you will be able to drink some of it and spill the rest. You maybe only get 20% of the fluid and the rest would be down you. You cannot call it a beard when you have hair all over your body, right? Or what? Whatever. But again, it's very hard to eat a coconut because then you have to split it totally in half, and even then you can't really eat it because there's still the shell around the stuff, so you can't really eat it like this, and you cannot grab it with your hands. So you actually have to crack it again, at least in like quarter pieces, before you are able to eat it like this. So you need to be way more determined about it and way more precise. So we have probably tried drinking out of the crack before we tried to crack it even more open, so we managed to eat it. Either that, or then we just crack it in half immediately, because we were really determined to open this coconut, and then the fluid of course just flew out immediately, so then we have no fluid to drink. And maybe then we try to crack it in quarters and then try to eat it. Who knows? It's a hard question. It can be both. But it seems like it's mostly believed that we drink coconut before we eat it. Just looking at the model use here. I just finished encoding a video that's pretty nice. So I could actually just uploading that on speak here. That's how long behind these videos are, because I'm not even starting to come to the Stone Age videos yet. That's how fast I'm recording this. I'm recording them when I can you say that? I'm recording them in the meantime when I'm editing the other whatever. Back to the Stone Age. We invented the hammer millions of years ago again, and we still have it. I have right here in my hand, and again I feel like I have a very strong connection to the Stone Age when I'm holding this tool, because this tool are like the prime time of the Stone Age. It's amazing to think about how we have evolved over such a long period of time. However, what happened after we invented the hammer? Well, again, we were not even humans then, we were just simple humanoids. The Homo sapiens were a long way into the future. And we actually managed to crack open a stone before we managed to evolve to Homo sapiens. So we managed to make sharp stones. It was mostly the flint stones, if you got that one, and the obsidian we used to make sharp edges. And by flintstones I don't mean the family flintstone, and by obsidian I don't mean the amazing overpowered metal from if you can even call it metal, or a product thing you can get in Minecraft. I'm talking about the real flint stones from nature in the real world, and the real obsidian, which is also a stone that exists in the real world and exists out in the nature. It actually, I didn't knew about the obsidian up until like just a few years ago actually, and I thought it was like a joke that it exists in real life until I started to hear about it a lot and see it in a lot of Stone Age related material. So, but now I believe in it. I have seen a picture of it, and it's strange that it exists in real life when you know it mostly from Minecraft. However, it does. And flint and obsidian was really easy to crack, but also likes to crack in a way where it gets sharp. It's not because you cannot make every stone sharp. You can actually make everything sharp if you really want and are really precise about it. But some things just like to be sharp more than others. So that was mostly the stone we cracked open and used as a sharp tool. And that mostly resembled an axe of today, because most of the time was still like kind of a round stone, but it has a sharp edge, so more like a droplet form stone. So we have a big round stone you can have your hand around and hold on like a handle, and then you have sharpen one end of it so you can crack open stuff easier and maybe cut things in half. And I think it was not that much for cutting, but more for like crack things, cracking, cutting, not cutting, but cracking. Is it that? Cracking things open, whatever. And it probably made it easier for us to crack open a coconut, for example, and cut leaves, smaller leaves of sticks, and cut sticks in half and stuff like that. And it was for example, way later in time we tried to attach these sharp stones on sticks to make spears, because of course that you need some engineering to do that. Because how do we attach the stone to the spear? Oh, just kicking my tail. I actually don't know how they did it the first time. I know, of course, at some point they do some rope. They tie it in a clever way around the stone and then around the stick in some clever motions direction where it doesn't fall off. And at some point they also shaped the stone and the stick to like have some, what can we call it, hole spins where the rope can be inside, so the rope will be better stuck to the tools. It connected, whatever. I'll just go with it. I hope you understand me. Else, fuck that. But they probably use vines at some points. Because what is a rope? A rope is a vine, I guess. Or a vine is a rope. Of course, today, oh my god, a rope is way more complicated than just a simple vine. But I think the definition of a rope is just something that's quite soft and long, whatever. So the first ropes will probably only be made of one thing and will not be twisted or anything as they are today. So a vine will probably be the first type of rope they used. I'm actually not sure. I don't know if we even know what the first thing we tried was. Of course, also because it probably failed. If not all the time, then it fails with times. So it will probably not be preserved. Like the full spear will probably not be preserved up to today, millions of years later. So we will not see how the first spears are made because they don't exist anymore. So the spears we find are actually the good quality spears from back in the day. So it's probably not the first one, the one we have found. There's probably been some missing link, you can call it, in the spear family we haven't found yet because it's too easy to break. Of course, the first spears was most likely a stick that was sharpened in the end, and that's again a uses for the sharp stone. They can use the sharp stone to sharp the stick to get a very pointy end. I have even did that. I have even done that multiple times out in the nature, and I have been there myself and found tools on the ground. So that's quite easy. So that's probably the first thing they have done. But to go from a sharp stone and a sharp stick to combine these two and make a spear, like a real spear that's a very effective one, that for that you need some engineering. But you can see where the idea came from, because you have the sharp stone and it's very effective. It can get very sharp, you have discovered that. But you also have the sharp stick that's very effective because you can point a long way with that. But you also feel it's just not as sharp as a stone are. So of course they cannot go long time after they discover these two tools they will be thinking, what if we can combine these two, that will be like perfect. It would be amazing if we was able to combine these two. And how do we combine them? This we have no clue. Not no clue like we don't know, but no glue like the glue with a G to stick things together, because we have not invented glue that yet. So we only have the other way to do it, where we have something around, and we don't have duct tape yet, of course. So if we don't have duct tape, then we only have one thing left, and that is a kind of rope. So that's again probably the first thing they did, and probably the only way they could even think of could be a solution to combining two different materials that is not combined by nature and can be found like this. So that was actually a very significant point in our history where we first combined a stone and a stick. We first combined two different materials because it was probably the first time we combined two different materials. And the stone and the stick will of course be obvious materials to combine because it was the first two tools we ever used. Singularity and combined was the first combined tool we have ever used. But when did that happen? Again, that's hard to determine. I'm not even sure what the oldest real spear that still works, or what you can call it, we have found is from, but it's probably around 1,000,000 years old or something. But it was, no matter what, it was probably even before that we tried the first time, because again, it's probably failed a lot of times and it probably break very easily the first couple of spears, at least, before we make it stronger. Like today with the hammer here, which it seems pretty breakable, just a stick with something hard and heavy. When you have something so hard and so heavy, you want to hammer really hard with it, and you can easily do that because it's so heavy. So you will find it very easy to break the handle, but it's just not that easy to break this hammer, because it's the peak of our engineering of a hammer up until now, so we can make them very durable nowadays. But of course, the first time you combine a stick and a metal, not even metal, we're talking stones. We're way before metals now, we're still in the stone part. Then they were probably not that durable. So, but that's another thing we don't really know and probably never find out. But so we can just estimate, and then we can guess, like I do, if it happened before. I don't know where it happened. Oh my god, I don't know why. Can't breathe, probably. I need some banana juice, probably. Oh, it's so good. I don't get it. I still have my banana juice just from the first Stone Age video. So, I just forgot what to say. I forgot what I was thinking about. To be more precise, because I'm just saying what I'm thinking, so I actually forgot what I was thinking about. Yeah, we can only guess when we used the stone the first time, when we used the combination of the stone and the stick for the first time. Of course, that hammer landed in very unfortunate place, I can tell you that. That's for sure. So, yes, so I got distracted, but I think I have a good excuse for that this time. So, yes, we cannot really do anything but come close, and then after that guess the precise point in time we invented the stone tool and the combination of stone and stick as a tool. And the stick too is the stick is even harder, because a pointy stick is actually something you can find in nature. They're just normally not that good because they are pointy, because they are getting thin. but it's better to take the thick end and then make it pointy earlier in the process than the end of the natural stick. But it doesn't mean that the earliest human thought about that. Maybe they took the thin part of the stick because they think it's already kind of pointy, and then they try to make it more pointy. So actually maybe the first pointy sticks are actually just natural occurring pointy sticks. Maybe they even didn't make it sharper, maybe they just used the natural pointy sticks to get to the ants and stuff they use it for. So it's totally impossible to find out when we use a pointy stick the first time or just a stick at all. Of course, a stick at all is totally impossible to find out, but a pointy stick nearly just as impossible to find out. And that's kind of the fun but also the sad thing about the Stone Age. There are so many things you don't know and so many things you probably never will know about it. Well, my camera just shut off, and when I say just, I mean it's like an hour ago. So I should have looked before what I did, because that could have saved me a lot of time. Let me actually look. Okay, it's still going. I think it's fine. It also had time to cool down anyway, so I will try to make the rest of this video fast because I have been wandering around my thoughts a lot, and I could probably break it down better than I have done, and I actually want to, because I think it was like too much repetitive wandering around, going so much off topic that I needed to repeat the topic again to being able to follow my own thoughts again. So I will try to start where I ended before. I was talking about how hard it is to determine some of the specific and important points in time of the Stone Age. Like how hard it is to specify when we pick up the first stone and pick up the first stick, which of course are like impossible to determine because you cannot see if we have touched a rock at all. That you can do today if there's fingerprint on, but fingerprint don't last for millions of years, so you will not be able to see that. And even the first time we shaped a rock and shaped a stick, then you're not even able to see if it's really us that have shaped the rock or if it's a natural occurring broken rock, and if the sharpened stick are sharpened by us or if it's natural sharpened. That's hard to see with the first one, but when we do it in more advanced way, then you can see it, and that is what we have evidence of. So you actually have to look at the evidence we have, I think, and then you have to like go 2 million years back, and then you have maybe even 4 million years back, and then you have the point in time where we picked it up the first time. And so yeah, first we picked up a stone and then a stick, and maybe the opposite way around, or maybe very close to each other. Then we tried to sharpen them in some way or another, and then at some point in time, of course it need to happen, we invented the spear by putting a stone, sharpened stone, on a stick. But how do we put it on a stick? We should use something that's not a stone and not a stick to bind these two things together. And we have not invented the glue yet, so we could not glue it together. We have not invented duct tape, so we cannot just duct tape around it, so it must be rope of some kind. And what is rope? Well, that's probably just something flexible and long. Rope today are very complicated, made of multiple materials in one often, but at that point in time it was probably just vine or something. We try to take around the stone and then around the stick in maybe some clever way where it will not fall off. And that's also the problem here, because the first spears we made were probably very big failures. We probably didn't even use it because it broke immediately or something. So we will not be able to find that really, because it's not a spear anymore when it's broken. But even the spears that actually worked probably breaks easily, so we probably use it until it breaks, and then we throw it away. And if we did that every single time we did that with all of the first spears we made, then you are also not able to find these spears. So you're not able to find the failed spears, but you are also not able to find the very non-durable spears. The spears we actually found, they still works. They didn't broke. If they didn't broke, then either they were so bad that they don't want to use it, or then they were so good that they never break it. Never broke it, I should say. The first one is highly unlikely. I think that you can make a spear that's so bad you don't even want to use it, because I guess it's still better than a freaking stick. That's a bit point. So if you made a bad spear, it's probably still the best thing you have ever made, because how should you be able to make a spear that's more bad than the one you made before that? So that's highly unlikely. So probably the reason why the spears survived up until today was probably because it was a very good quality spear. And that will not happen the first time, so it's not the first spear. So the first spear we have ever found cannot be the first spear that ever existed. If you can get what I'm talking about here. So it's even a problem to determine when we invented the spear, because that's also kind of a paradox, because we really can't ever discover the exact point in time where we actually invented the spear. So what's the next thing that's gonna happen? That is, we advance the spear, we shape the stone in clever ways. We made this droplet that go easy inside animals. We even made some pointy sides of the stone at some point, so it stick inside the animals when we put it inside. And that is of course very cruel to the animal, but it probably make it easier to kill, so easier for us to survive. So it was probably an advantage at that point. And we didn't have the engineering to really think about the animals yet. We really had to think about ourselves in the Stone Age. The other thing came later in time, where we have invented stuff enough to survive, and we can start inventing stuff that's better for other people than ourselves and other animals than ourselves. So what happens next? Well, I don't know. We just advanced thing. I guess we made it better and better, but at some point in time we found metals. I really mean found metals, because we probably found natural occurring metals at some point in time before we melted it and tried to engineering ourselves. And the evidence I have researched myself to is that we have found natural occurring copper and used natural occurring copper back up until maybe 10,000 years ago. And then we later, around 6,000 BC, started to melt metals like copper and tin and gold, other easy to melt metals. I actually want to see how it looks. Okay, it's still going. So we actually used again, the Stone Age lasted up until 2 to 6,000 years BC. So if we started using metal 10,000 years BC, why is it still called the Stone Age? Well, I don't know, because I don't think it should be called. But the Stone Age stops where the Bronze Age started, and the Bronze Age starts a quite clever place. The first point in time where we invented bronze, because bronze is an invention by us. because bronze are made out of copper and tin, and we started to melt copper and tin around 6000 BC plus, and the way we made copper, or bronze I should say, was to try to combine the two metals we have succeeded in melting. So it makes kind of sense. Our curiosity again as humans make us try to do stupid things. It kind of made no sense to try to combine the two liquids, but why not try and see what happens? And that was bronze. And that happens at as early as 6000 years BC at some places on Earth. So that where they entered the Bronze Age, and some places on Earth they did not try it until 2000 years BC. So that's where they headed into the Bronze Age in that part of the world. And therefore, to say that we start melting copper 6000 years BC is clearly not true everywhere in the world. It's probably true in the places where they started Bronze Age late, but the places where they started Bronze Age 6000 years BC, they probably tried to melt copper a couple of years before that. So we actually started 10,000 years BC to use natural occurring copper, and some points after that, some actually thinks that maybe we used gold and iron, natural occurring gold and iron of course, before that, but there's no evidence for that. So as the evidence are saying right now, copper is the first natural occurring animals we used, natural occurring metal we used, and the first one we tried to melt, which makes sense, because it's one of the easiest to melt, and it's a one we have had in the longest time, so it makes sense to try on that the first, I guess. So it looks like that we started using natural occurring copper 9 to 10,000 years BC, and then we discover natural occurring gold and silver and tin and iron. So that's the 5 we mainly used. And at some point in time we have invented a way to heat up fire, because that's the best way to heat up things. So of course we have invented fire at the point in time where we melted stuff. So at some point we have managed to heat up fire to more than 500 degrees Celsius, so we were able to melt copper and tin and so on. So when did we discover fire? Because that's also a tool, so we should also talk about that. And fire is very hard to find evidence of. That's probably the hardest one, and that makes sense because that's not even a tool you can hold into a hand. That's actually a natural disaster, you can call it, that's happening. But we, at some point in time, we humans became able to be the reason for this disaster to happen, and to control it in small places. So we only have a natural disaster in this little area, so it's not really a disaster, it actually became a tool. So I have found the evidence for fire making 100,000 years BC and 300,000 years BC, and the problem is that there's only one 300,000 years BC, and it's not certain, so it's really just a very big maybe. And that's the problem. If we have founded hundreds of fires for 300,000 years BC, some of them must be real, some of them must be ours. That will make us very certain, but we have very little evidence of the fire. We have found very few occurrence that looks like it's from humans, from the multiple 100,000 years ago, of course. So we are not sure how long it really dates back, because it could be something that just looks like it's made by humans, but actually not. It makes made by an accident of some kind. So, but that's really hard, and I should not talk more about that because I cannot get it any more clear than I have already. So it just live with that fire had happened sometimes some 100,000 years ago. But anyway, that's a lot before 10,000 years BC, because, well, I should not say because I hope to know why it's a lot before, because it's a very bigger number. So that's how it works. At least when you count in minus years, then a bigger number is before a small number. So, however, that means at 10,000 years BC, when we discovered the natural occurring animals, not animals again, but metals. When we discover natural occurring metals, or when we start to use natural occurring metals, I should not talk anymore, I should go to sleep. Metals, then we have invented fire. Oh my god, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. Seriously. Okay. At the point in time where we first used natural occurring metals, then we have invented fire, or discovered fire, I should say, multiple thousands of years before that. So, no problem. We could heat it up, but we could not heat it up enough to melt it. So that happened a couple of thousand years after that, around 6,000 years BC. We managed to heat up fire so much that we could actually melt metals. Some of them at least the copper and tin. And of course, copper and tin, the easiest one to melt, is of course the first one we tried to combine to make bronze, and therefore the Bronze Age started. And it makes a lot of sense to start an age at the point in time where we first ever combined two different metals, because that's a significant point in time. That's very significant. So it makes a whole lot of sense. It's maybe the most significant point in human history ever that we try to combine two different metals. We are actually inventing a new metal here. We are inventing a new stuff. We're inventing a whole new material here. It's not just a stone on a stick, it's still two different materials, clearly separated but holding together by a thread material. But here we are inventing a whole new material from the bottom up, and it's a metal, the hardest materials to work with. So it's maybe the most significant point in human history, and if not, then it's clear in top 5. So it makes sense to start a new age at the Bronze Age. So I don't hate the Bronze Age for that. But I don't get why we don't start new age around 10,000 years BC, because we start to use metals, and 6,000 years BC where we start to melt metals. But actually, the Stone Age are split in 3 different parts. We have the Paleolithic at the first one, the Old Stone Age, or Paleo, we can call it the early Stone Age. Then we have a middle and a late Stone Age. And I don't remember which one, if it's the middle or the late, but one of them starts around 10,000 years BC. So one of the Stone Age parts starts at the point in time where we started to use metals. And I should actually Google it when I'm talking about it, because I cannot just say I think all the time. But if it's the middle, part of the Stone Age that starts 10,000 years BC, then that makes the late Stone Age start around 6,000 years BC, because it ended, 6,000 to 2,000 years BC, so by the Bronze Age. So I guess that, okay, we have it here, the middle Stone Age, okay. really? Like that? Am I that stupid? Or is it not true? But so there's multiple ways of defining it, apparently. Annoying. But it looks like that the middle part is actually 300,000 to like 30 or 50,000 years ago. But this says like the late Stone Age ended 10,000 years ago, but it didn't, because it says that the Stone Age as a whole ended 62,000 years ago. Well, people cannot even agree about this. But it clearly looks like that it's the late Stone Age that happens around the time of 10,000 years ago, because the Middle Stone Age was clearly ending there. I can see. There's talking about. Oh no, here is actually talking about the next part of the Stone Age, the Mesolithic Stone Age, which the middle are called, and then the Neolithic Stone Age, which are the late Stone Age. So the Neolithic Stone Age actually started around 10,000 years BC and lasted to around 6,000 years BC, but that's where the Stone Age ended. What I'm talking about. Neolithic started around 7,000 BC, so it started before the Mesolithic ended. But again, the problem is it ends and starts different points in time in different points in the world. And this ended 42,000 years ago BC. That depends on the place in the world, but somewhere already in the Bronze Age 6,000 years BC, so it must have been ended there. But it is actually basically what I'm saying. The middle part of the Stone Age is actually starting 10,000 years BC. I just don't know why I find something that says something different. I think I've combined a lot of shit. The Mesolithic, don't even know what I was saying. The Mesolithic Stone Age, the Middle Stone Age, starts around 10,000 years BC. So at the point in time where we actually discovered the use of metals, and then the Neolithic part of the Stone Age actually started around 6,000 years ago, at the point in time where we started melting metals. So there are very short periods in time, and they are also not a fully age. They could be a fully age because they're actually longer than most other ages we have later. I think the Bronze Age are actually only 500 years, because it normally happened 500 years after the making bronze that the first iron are melted, and that's where we go into the Iron Age. So the Bronze Age are actually only a very short like conversion from Stone Age to Iron Age. And the Iron Age is of course very significant because we use iron a lot. So when we have made bronze the first time, then we really want to melt that iron, because that's at that point in time is the only metal we have not melted of the 5 metal we have used at that point in time, at least. So we really want to melt it, and when we succeed in that, then we just use the hell out of it. So that makes kind of sense that we want to go fast to Iron Age, but then kind of doesn't matter. Not that it doesn't matter to go from the Iron Age, of course, I'm happy we go into the computer age now. I would call this point in time beyond now, I would call that the computer age, because the Stone Age was the point in time where we started using stone, but also the full timeline where we use stones every day. And nowadays we use computer every day into everything. Not as a hammer, thankfully. We still use not stone for a hammer, but metal for a hammer. But we use computer for almost every single thing, and in the Stone Age we used stone for every single thing, except the thing we use stick for. Again, it's not everything, but it's close. It's the thing we use the most, and today that's computer. So we are basically in the computer age now. Some are talking about we are going into a new age around now. We can call it AI age, because we have invented AI and we used AI many ways, many places, in many places, and that makes sense to me because I have AI in my phone, my computer, and my television, and I talk to all of them. I'm not talking too much to my computer, no, but I do, just for testing though, for fun, like. But I do talk to it sometimes. I talk to my phone, but rarely. I talk a lot to my television because that makes kind of sense. Because I'm not always having the remote in my hand, and it going both ways, because sometimes I'm leaving the remote at the table, standing up, doing some things, then I decide to go outside. So instead of grabbing my remote, I'm just telling my television to shut off. So I can do that on the way out of the door, and I literally do that often. The good thing about it is I also turn off the light, so I can see if the television actually shut off by the light disappear. If the room got totally dark, then my television has shut off. So it's quite easy to do it on the way out of the door, because I can speak to it, but that's only because I can speak to it. So I speak a lot to my television. And that's AI, because it's Google Assistant. It's Google Assistant on every device I use nowadays, and Google Assistant is AI. Google Assistant is some of the most complicated AI we can use nowadays as a normal customer. However, there is more complicated AI out there in development in different companies, where they make some robot prototypes and stuff. So it kind of makes sense for me to making the new age the AI age. But I will not say we use AI more than we use computer by hand. I still, even though I'm speaking to my television, I still find me using the remote a bit more, because with the remote I can move around the specific icon. So even if I'm telling my television to show me a specific video, I actually use my remote most of the time to select the specific video of the choices my television give me. So even the device I talk the most to, I still use the remote more, and my smartphone I use the touchscreen way more than I speak to it. So I still think it's kind of more the computer age than the AI. It will be like calling the late Stone Age for the Copper Age, because we use copper, but we still use stone more. So actually now I get why we still call it the Stone Age, because stone was what we used the most. And that's why we should call this the computer age and not the AI. We use computers more than we use the AI in them. However, it will happen soon. If not now. So what am I even talking about? I don't know anymore. Well, we have I should see how much I have been talking. Probably talk too much. Not so bad. So yes, we have used a lot of tools in the Stone Age, but also not compared to how many millions of years we have been in the Stone Age. Of course, in the late part of the Stone Age, 10,000 years BC and forward, a lot of things happened. Like all of the metals just happened so close to each other. When we're talking about before that, it was stone all the way. It was really stone. Stone was the most complicated we have. It was stone and sticks. So fuck sticks. Sticks are just sticks. Sticks are not that amazing. So stone was the most amazing thing we have developed in all of the millions of years before 10,000 years BC, where we discovered the use of metal tools. Natural occurring metals is also kind of hard because we have probably seen it before, like millions of years before, just not knew how to use it. So to try to use natural occurring metals is kind of hard to find a specific point of, but it makes sense that we have used it way more in this short period of time that happened after 10,000 BC before we managed to melt the first metals. Because that is quite easy to discover, because we cannot just start a fire like on the ground and try to put some metal on top. We have to really develop a Stone Age to really encapsulate the heat and make it hotter. Like every time we start a fire, it will be the same temperature. So the only way we really knew to make the fire hotter was to encapsulate it, and also that will give us a possibility to also encapsulate the metal itself. So when it melts, it don't just melt inside the fire, and then we have to turn off the fire, and then the metal is too cold, and then it's just some droplets of metals we cannot use for anything. But we also have to encapsulate the metal so we can get the metal in some shape we can use for just something. We have probably made some stone structures that is quite easy to find. But we have probably also broke some of them to use the materials to make some new ones. So again, to say what is the first one, well, the first one probably doesn't exist anymore, so we can probably never find the first one. But we can find some pretty old ones anyway, so that's kind of good enough this time. Because I think we can come quite close to the point where we made the first one. Anyway, I doesn't think that we have made it for millions of years and broke it down for millions of years to use the tools for millions of years, and so suddenly after millions of years we choose to not break the Stone Age. I don't think that is what has happened. So you can probably come quite close to that, and that is basically because it's so easy to find these structures. We also made houses of some kind with the stones, like built stones on top of each other, and made some roof with the stones. I should say that too. It's not quite of tools, but it's kind of tool. It's something we built ourselves, our humans. So she also talk a little bit about that, and we also had some. We also make fins, actually, like mostly of sticks and sticks with the pikes on, so that it will hurt the animals if they try to break through. So we actually managed to keep out the wild animals quite early in our history. And also quite clever to like encapsulate our cities. We almost call it a city by making a fence all around it. So fence and houses, we made the fence and houses a long time ago. Actually, that is probably like millions of years ago. Actually, we made like the first simple one. I'm pretty sure fence was the first one. That's probably happened millions of years ago. Like a wheelhouse, like with a roof. To make a shape with a roof out of stones. That's probably like a million years ago. We made that the first time. So what happened. Then we discovered metal again. We used natural occurring metal. Then we melted metal. Then we combined copper and tin, made bronze. Then we melted iron and entered the Iron Age. Also very significant point in time, maybe the most significant, if not the first time we made bronze was the most significant, then the first time we melted iron was the most significant point in human history. And from there it just flew off with the ages. Many ages came very close to each other, and we developed many different tools close to each other. But that's not what this series is about. So let me try to keep it at the Stone Age. But we have mostly gone over all the tools of the Stone Age. I could go into more details with the stones, how we shape the stones, and at which point in time we have discovered or estimated the different stone tools we have found. However, I've always been spoken for an hour, and it's probably a bit too boring anyway. I better like to think about it and try to connect the knowledge I have about the Stone Age. So you can see, if you connect the knowledge about the tools and you try to make a timeline in your head about how the tools are made and big points in time and how long I went between the tools has been made, then it's actually quite fun to think about, because again, like everything, it starts incredibly slowly. There was millions of years between the tools, and then suddenly we went from melting something to combining some things almost immediately after, like maybe less than 1,000 years after. We have tried melting both of the metals, we try to combine them. So it can go incredibly fast in the late Stone Age compared to the early Stone Age. That's probably why we have split the Stone Age in 3 parts in that way, where we have the early Stone Age happening for 3 million years, and then we have the middle Stone Age that's just a short period of time before the late Stone Age. That's also very short compared, still long compared to the other ages coming after that, but really short compared to the first part of the Stone Age, because it's just happening that slow at that point in time. But why are we evolving faster and faster? I don't know. Nowadays, like every single year, you can get amazed by what new tools, what new inventions that have been discovered and been made. And at that point in time, it took 1,000,000 years before we made a new thing. It always starts slowly, and at every point in history we have always been accelerating our evolving development of new stuff to use for anything, amusement or practical use, to make something better or to make a new way to do things. So if you try to imagine how fast things happen now, how much can happen in 1 year, which are more than last year, more than all the previous years. Try to imagine what will happen in just 5 years. Can it even go faster? It goes so fast today. Is there a limit for how fast it can go, or will we in 5 years, in just 1 month, make more new stuff than we have done in this year, the last year, 2021? That is strange to think about, because it feels really impossible that it can go even faster than it does already. But it probably did the same in the Stone Age, am I right? I don't know. Maybe we just are so lucky we live in a time where it cannot go any faster. And therefore we think it cannot go any faster because we're actually right about this. I don't know. Only time will tell. but I'm excited for it, to see if it goes even faster, to see if we innovate so much. I would be amazed every single day I live from now on. But again, we will see in a few years what happens in a few years. That's how time works, at least as how we know it for now. I should also make a video about time, because time can be thought of in a lot of different ways, but don't even get me started. It will be too long of a video, and it's not about the Stone Age. I have the timing so correct I can make it today about the Stone Age, so that we hold it there, and then end off this video by taking the first ever tool made by human and use it against myself. No, I rather not want to use it, because there's nothing I want to smash inside my own home right now. Sometimes yes, but not right now. And I should probably put the hammer away before I get a feeling that there is something I want to smash. So, but it's an amazing tool anyway. And it's millions of years in development. I cannot tell that too much, and that makes it even more amazing. But let that be the end of the tools from the Stone Age and how it evolved over time, and how the tools was the reason of the end of the Stone Age, and how the tools ways of ending the Stone Age were actually a very good reason to end the Stone Age, and good for us, good we ended the Stone Age. The worst thing about the Stone Age is that it was so damn good it ended. I'm very sad that that's a fact, but facts don't care about feelings, and I still like the Stone Age. And I hope you do too, or do now, or if not, I'm sad you have watched this video, but you probably haven't anyway, not the whole thing. Even if you like the Stone Age, you probably not watch the whole thing, because who do that? That's too much of me in this video. But I hope you learned something, if not about the Stone Age, then about I don't know. How I think, and it will maybe a possibility. If not, then at least that you found at least some of the video interesting. Just some point where you skipped through the video, or at least you got a good laugh or something. But if you like the video, consider subscribing, and so you can see the next part of the Stone Age series, or my other topics I talk about in my Inside of My Head series. Or else you can find something else on my channel. I have a lot of things. I have travel vlogs, gaming videos, unboxing and tech reviews, and probably other stuff too. So take a look and see if there's something you like. I don't even know what I have right now, because I have so much, so you'll probably find something. And if you really like the video, well, maybe you should like it. And I guess I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.